Welcome, everybody. I can't tell you how good it feels to be back with you. I want to thank Roxanne and the entire Dem Women Board for picking up the slack for me for the past couple of months. And I also want to thank all the members and friends who sent me texts or emails. They were very much appreciated. I hope I responded to you all, but you know, when you're on those drugs, your mind is not your own. So if I didn't, I meant to, and I apologize. Today is day 539 of the Trump administration. Oh. There are a whole lot more days ahead of us. But the good news is we are in a very strong position to flip some seats this year. Both in Greenville and across the state. But this is the first time I've lived here 23 years. This is the first time I've ever seen a Democrat running for every available seat. I've never seen it. And we have Stacey Mars and the GCDP to thank for why that is in Greenville. Thank you, Stacey. I know that many of us are more focused on and concerned about the federal elections. You know, we want to get rid of Trump. And with the sudden death of Lindsey Graham, it's uncertain who will be on the ballot to challenge Dr. Annie Andrews. I want to say a few words about Lindsey Graham. In 1623, John Donne wrote words that ring true to this day. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in all mankind. Much of Lindsey's life was commendable. From his caring for his sister when their parents died, to his service in the military, and later to South Carolina and the country as a congressman and U.S. senator. His downfall came when he fell into Trump's orbit and lacked the moral fiber to extricate himself. His untimely death should be a warning to others who have forgotten that they are part of the whole of mankind. I read this snippet in Substack this morning, and it stuck with me, and so I thought I'd read it to you. Graham is gone, but the lesson of his life should be top of mind for the sycophants and enablers hoping to cling to power by doing Trump's bidding. Their legacies will be conflated with Trump's. They will own Trump's depravity and misdeeds. They will be identified with his hate and racism. They will be branded as compatriots and conspirators in Trump's efforts to overturn constitutional order. There is still time for others to walk away and attempt to salvage their legacies, an opportunity Graham lost with his sudden death on Saturday. That spoke to me. When I think about it in relationship to Trump, however, he has no legacy to salvage. Throughout his 2 terms, he has shown us nothing but hate, unrestrained violence, personal greed, and self-aggrandizement. His hatred of women, minorities, and immigrants is top of mind in all of his policies. This is where I see the midterm elections in South Carolina dovetailing with the federal policy agenda from January 2029. I have no doubt that we are going to win back the House this year, right? Yeah. And I'd like to think we win back the Senate. Because keeping the Senate would enable Trump to continue to ram through unqualified justices to sit on the federal bench, as well as top administration officials such as Todd Blanche and Kash Patel, among others. But losing the House prevents him from implementing legislation. Although he can do much by executive action, some of the biggest things he wants to do will go beyond the federal government and impact the states, and they must go through Congress. Currently, there are 28 Republican majority states. My scenario is that when he loses the House majority, he will turn to these states, like us, and start pushing out his agenda aggressively. He will apply his special brand of pressure to get copycat bills like the anti-DEI bill and the SAVE Act to the states to enact as quickly as possible, so he can get his agenda working in half the country prior to the 28 election, especially those bills that will make it harder for people to vote. These two bills that I mentioned, the anti-DEI and the SAVE Act, did get introduced in our legislature this year, and they failed to pass, thanks to hard work on the part of people in this room who advocated, the agencies and nonprofit organizations who fought back, the ACLU and hundreds of other groups and organizations. Sorry, I lost my place. And as you know, I have to read because I'm a better writer than I am an orator. But they both failed to pass. But with Trump feeling potentially backed into a corner, the pressure could be much greater. Failing from a Trump perspective will not be an option. I've been talking about flipping one damn seat. Hope you all have a button. If not, we got them up front. I want to see them for nearly 4 years. This year, I see real potential. We have 46 counties in South Carolina. If just half flipped one seat, we would go from being an 88-35 Republican supermajority to a 58-65 Democratic minority within 7 seats of taking control of the House. Potentially in one season. Even if we don't ever take the House, we would be able to influence outcomes. We would be players. Maybe we could even get some positive legislation passed. More importantly, if Jermaine Johnson or when Jermaine Johnson becomes governor, we have the ability to veto dangerous legislation that cannot be overridden by a Republican majority any longer. So why do I think we're close? What has changed? Trump is struggling, and Republicans across the country are leaving their party. Not to become Democrats, that's way too much to hope for. But to move more to the middle where their party used to be, they're moving into an independent position. The independent party is growing, the Republican Party is shrinking. The Democratic Party is staying pretty much the same. In the past 2 years, according to data from the Brookings Institute, which is from April, when Democrats ran against MAGA Republicans in special state and legislative elections called to fill unexpected openings, Dems flipped 30 seats. How many? It's good. You can applaud that. How many did the GOP flip? Shout it out if you know. Zero. Zippo. Nothing. Not one. I assume and hope that conversations like this one are taking place all over the county, and more importantly across the state. I believe in us. I do not look around this room and see people who are tired of being asked to give up their Saturdays to canvass for candidates, or skip dinner some nights to hang out at the GCDP office, as much fun as that is, and phone bank. I see people who want a better South Carolina and who after year have been willing to work for it. And I know you're not going to stop now when we are so close. A little bit later in the program, GCDP Chair Stacey Mars is going to talk about some of the new ideas she's put in a detailed plan for this year. It's an exciting approach, and I expect them women to be contributing significantly to making it work. That means you guys, in case you were wondering.
No, we do.
No, we don't. Yeah, exactly. At the same time, we have some ideas of our own. Next up, you're going to hear from Michaela Ramirez. She is our event chair. We'll be giving you some information about our upcoming fundraiser, which, in case you haven't heard anything about, it's going to Topgolf. I know, I feel your pain. I get hundreds of requests for donations from candidates and parties all over the country every day. But one thing most of those requests have in common is a vague promise of what it's going to do with my money. Could be printing, could be travel, could be a grooming consultant for the candidate. You just don't know. So I want to tell you exactly, with every dollar you donate, or every ticket you buy for this fundraiser will go to. Due to bylaw changes that the members approved last year, we have more flexibility this year in deciding who we will fund and how much money they will get. We are no longer required to give the same amount of money to every candidate running at the same level of seat, such as every state house candidate. That used to be in our bylaws. But I'm determined that our efforts are not going to stop with funding candidates. We are currently looking at digital billboards, high-profile ones, where we would have the potential to be seen by more than 300,000 people a week. They aren't cheap, as you can imagine. But with what we have in the bank and what we hope will be made through this fundraiser, ticket sales and sponsorships definitely of this event, I believe we'll be able to move forward. I'd like to thank Kathleen Snyder, don't know where she is right now, she's over there, for doing the research on the billboards for us. Thank you, Kathleen's big help. We are also working with Local IQ, the USA Today company's digital marketing arm. We are discussing a targeted digital media campaign directed at independents, and we'll be doing paid social media to push messages about what Democrats are for to people who never, ever see our posts, or for that matter, see news about what's going on in the State House or simply reflexively vote for Republicans. Does this sound ambitious to you? Does to me too. Can we afford it all? That remains to be seen. What we can do will depend in part on how generous you, your friends, your neighbors, and your family are prepared to be. But I can promise you this now, and I will promise you that you will see the data to know that it was true, that not a dime of money you give to this fundraiser is going to go to anything but this election. Okay, that's it for me. You might be saying that's more than enough. Michaela, wherever you are, I've warmed them up for you.
Hello. Hey. Hey, everybody. I've got to have a little spot here for the camera, but fundraiser. All right. So our fundraiser this year is at Topgolf. It is August 13th from 6 to 9 p.m. That is a Thursday evening. So we don't have anything going on Thursday evening. You can all join at Topgolf. That is Topgolf Greenville. There's only one, so you can easily find the address. Like Laura said, all proceeds for this event are going directly to campaigns this year in South Carolina. We're very excited about what we have already raised, but we have very, very lofty goals for this fundraiser. So any donations and tickets and sponsorships are all very, very welcome as we work toward these very lofty goals. Now, Topgolf is exactly what it sounds like. For those of you that have been there, it's golfing, which is really fun for those who like golf. I do not number in the list of people who like golf. I do, however, enjoy going to Topgolf, as does the rest of my family, none of whom golf. And that is because Topgolf does have golfing. It also has drinks and food, and many of the games are made for 6-year-olds who are bad at golf. So if you are looking at me now and saying, this fundraiser sounds like a great thing that you guys are doing, but I'm just not a golfer, that's fine. Come eat with us, come drink with us, come support a really good cause, and have a lot more fun playing the games than you think you will. All right. Mary and I went the other night. We had a fantastic time. She told me before we went that she wasn't going to be able to play. And we played 2 games together, 2 different games. One of them was Angry Birds themed. So this is a very unserious game. And some of the games are much more Tiger Woodsy if you are an avid golfer. But you do not have to be an avid golfer to come join us. We are going to have a fabulous time. There's going to be music, food, drinks, all included in your ticket, as well as gameplay if you so choose to partake. So we are very, very excited. We are also excited to, at the event, be raffling off a 3-month Platinum Elite membership to Topgolf, which is worth $1,500. So come join us. join the raffle for that membership, a 3-month Platinum Elite membership that will be raffling off at the event. So we're very excited about that. You do have to register in advance. Ticket sales cut off on August 5th, and we do not have unlimited tickets. So please join us. Go ahead and get your tickets. Do not wait. Seats, places, etc. are limited, but your ticket does include drinks, it includes food, it includes games, and it includes time and fun with all of your friends at DWGC. And all of the proceeds are going to Democratic races in South Carolina this year. If you are looking at a group of 5 or more and you're like, goodness, whew, that's a big group for $125 ticket price, come talk to me. We can discuss group rates for 5 or more and we'll chat. So don't let that scare you away. Tickets are $125. There are still sponsorships available. I will be at our fabulous Topgolf table after the meeting today. If you do not win the raffle and you would like to come get a ticket, I will be available. They are also online on our Eventbrite. You can find the link on the Greenville Democrats event page, as well as on our Facebook and Instagram. And that is all of the time I'm going to take, except that I need to announce a winner for our raffle. So I've been doing this for a hot minute, so they are very mixed. All right, so our winning ticket number is 51088890. Woo! All right, you are the winner of a free ticket to our Topgolf event. You are, yeah, I'll come. I have your ticket, so I'll chat with you after.
Okay.
All right, come join us at Topgolf.
Yay.
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, we don't do it that way. Do it this way. Sorry. Also keep in mind, even if you can't come, even if you don't want to play golf, even if you'd like to come, but you can't because you're doing something, you can still make a donation. And that donation will fall into the same thing that I said before, not a dime, except for this election. Okay. This month we've selected Soteria to be our 50-50 beneficiary. Last month it was Mill Village, and we were pleased to send them $374. Today we welcome Patrick Bullard, a representative and former client of Soteria. He oversees the woodworking, which, as you remember from when Jerry Blassingame was here, talked a lot about the woodworking. And deconstruction projects, represents Soteria at work team during staff meetings and introduces new program participants to the woodworking trade. With a background in data centers, now that sounds interesting. He now enjoys working outside. Please welcome Patrick.
Hello, like she said, my name is Patrick Bullard. I'm a very proud participant and graduate of the Soteria CDC program. If you're not aware, Soteria helps previously incarcerated individuals get back on their feet, helps them re-enter society. When I first realized that I was going away to jail, I was hopeless. I lost my kids, lost my home. Biggest part was my kids. My daughter was living with me and she lost all her friends. She had to move down here. I was actually incarcerated. I'll back up a little. I'm originally from Texas. For some reason, I moved up to Minnesota 20 years ago. I finally thawed out and sobered up and went to jail. My ex-wife moved down here to South Carolina. When I got locked up, all of my kids had to come down here. We had a 50-50 split, so they were going back and forth between the two of us. So I was very, very much a part of their lives. But when I went away, I didn't know how I was going to get back on my feet, how I was going to reconnect with my kids. While I was locked up, my oldest son found Soteria, and thank goodness suggested, say, Dad, why don't you just restart down in South Carolina. And at first I was like, how am I gonna go 1,000 miles away, get things restarted? I don't even know how I can restart being where I was. My whole issue was alcohol, so I thought maybe I'd go to sober living, sober houses, and be a part of the recovery community up there. But when he found Soteria, I was like, well, maybe that'll work. So we started the whole application process. Anyway, I made it down here. He sold some of my things and bought me a plane ticket. I got down here, got picked up at the airport, Nashville, and started the process of trying to reunite with my kids. I ran into another little roadblock that my kid's mom didn't want them to be around me. She, at the time, was rightfully scared of how I was going to act, if I was going to keep drinking, if I was going to get in more trouble, if my kids were even going to be safe around me. So I felt hopeless again. We had a legal 50-50 split of our custody, but at the time I was hopping mad and I was ready to lawyer up and start fighting. So Terry helped calm me down and said, just be patient, let's get the foundational things going on. And that's what Soteria does. They gave me housing, they gave me clothing. We have financial literacy classes. We have morning devotions. We journal every day. We have Bible studies. We have mental health counseling. It was just bringing structure to my life and a place to live where I didn't have to worry about money. I didn't have to worry about any of my basic needs. My kids were old enough where they were still able to defy their mom a little bit and stay in contact with me. But slowly but surely, they started to realize when I showed up to marching band events and different things with their school, and they saw that I had a steady job. That's one of the things Soteria helped me with. They offered me a job right away. The second day I was here, I was able to transfer my license down here. I had food and clothing. I had all my basic needs met. I wouldn't have had any of that if I didn't have a program like Soteria. In the 20 years that I lived in Minnesota, I never really felt connected with the people around there. Soteria connected me with the community here in Greenville. Being from Texas originally, I know about the Southern hospitality. I didn't feel that and didn't realize that was missing in my life till I came back down here to South Carolina and felt that here in Greenville, especially from Soteria. I felt the love from the people in the office immediately. So fast forward a little bit, after a year of working in the wood shop at Soteria. The wood shop is part of what they call Soteria at Work. That's where the men can go and work, and immediately they volunteer for their first 30 days and they start learning skills about basic woodworking. We deconstruct homes and we reclaim the wood from local homes, old mill houses, barns, and we build beautiful, enduring wood or furniture out of the wood that we get from all these old houses. So we reclaim the wood and we reclaim our lives by doing that. It establishes a structure in our lives and gives us accountability by working with our hands, and we can show our kids and our family that we're doing the right thing day in and day out and showing up. And that was the biggest thing that helped me with my kid's mom, is that she saw the difference by having the support of Soteria. She saw the difference. Fast forward up to a year later after I got out of jail. This is 2 years ago when I first moved here. And I came basically straight from jail down to Asheville Airport where they picked me up from. A year later, I graduated the program and Jerry offered me the job. Jerry's the founder, CEO of Soteria. He offered me the job to manage the Soteria work guys in the wood shop, which was huge for me. At the same time, my ex-wife was moving to Columbus from Duncan and gave my kids the choice of if they wanted to live with me or live with her. So 1 year after I got out of jail, all three of my kids moved in with me. Yeah. They were 15, 17, and 19 when I got out of jail. So 2 years later, they're 17, 19, 21. So now I've got all three of my kids with me. I've got a stable job and I'm helping give back to the community. We do so many things here in the community. I've connected with so many wonderful people. I get the opportunity to speak like this and tell people what Soteria does. I hate speaking in front of people and I get really nervous, but I love being able to tell about Soteria. and I love connecting with the community. And that's what Jerry inspires me to do, to overcome my fears of speaking in front of this many people and talk about connecting with the people. I've never connected like that. I've had all kinds of connections when I was in Texas. Like I said, I just didn't connect in Minnesota, but I felt welcome, and this is a way for me to give back to Soteria and to the community. But I thank you for listening and helping Soteria with the donations and stuff too. It's huge what Soteria has done for me and what Soteria does for the community. So thank you very much for letting me talk.
Thanks, Patrick. What a great testimony. I love the connections. Our speaker has a bar top in her home that came from Soteria. So I love that. That warmed my heart that they got to have that conversation. I'm sure that our next speaker is going to provoke some really good questions. And we have index cards on the table. And if you'll jot them down as they occur to you, afterwards, when Dr. Jemison is finished, I'll collect them if you hold them up. And we'll have a brief question and answer afterwards. So be patient. Dr. Elizabeth Jemison is an associate professor of religion in Clemson University's College of Arts and Humanities. Dr. Jemison is a historian of American religion whose research centers on questions of race, gender, and politics in 19th and 20th century Christianity. Her first book, Christian Citizens Reading the Bible in Black and White in Post-Emancipation South, was published in 2020. She's currently working on 2 book projects and juggling 3 children at the same time. One that examines how women's religious groups across racial lines mobilized to defend Christian motherhood with conflicting results from the 1890s through the 1940s. Her second current book project is a work for popular audiences on how individuals and communities can grapple with the history of white Christian racism today. A dedicated teacher, Jemison received the Provost's Outstanding Junior Teacher Award in 2022, the CAAH Dean's Award for Excellence in Teaching in 2020, and the College Advisor of the Year Award in 2019. Please welcome Elizabeth Jemison.
Thank you, Roxanne, for the invitation and for all of you for being here. As she said, I'm going to talk about the history of white Christian nationalism. I often say that I am an expert on the history of white Christian racism, an expertise that I wish were less relevant. So I'm going to try to go quickly through history because Roxanne has me on a 15-minute time slot tonight, so I want to get through it. And although I'm a native Southerner, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, I speak quickly, so I'm going to slow it down and look forward to just chatting with you all in the Q&A as well. So please ask questions. Let's go to the next slide. So the first book that I wrote is really what I'm drawing from. So this is the book. My 5-year-old and I had a little tour of the Hughes Main Library last week, and she learned about the Dewey Decimal System and helped find the book. So she was motivated to do that. It was fun. We'll go on the next slide. The thing I want to ask tonight is, how did we get here? And by here, this is a picture of Pete Hegseth in the Pentagon with his favorite pastor, Doug Wilson. They're standing at a podium praying that's labeled Department of War. So you know who Pete Hegseth is, and you may know who Doug Wilson is. He is his favorite pastor and someone who's known for his interest in revoking the 19th Amendment, criminalizing homosexuality, disenfranchising people who are not Christians, and a number of other constitutional malfeasance. So I want to ask tonight, how did we get here? Because for many folks, this is really shocking. Right? It seems to have come out of nowhere, this combination of Christian dominance, I'll note a very specific form of Christianity, white supremacy, women's subordination, and state power. So a particular idea of religion that's being mapped onto gender and racial hierarchies and is increasingly having the support of the government. How did we get here? And what I want to suggest tonight is, as much as I appreciate my colleagues in sociology and other areas who are mapping it today, we're really missing a big piece of the story if we think it just showed up, if we don't understand where it came from. And I think that there are multiple places it came from. I could talk for, till it's really dark outside about the different places it came from. But what I want to suggest is we really need to go back to the era, the antebellum South, the era in which white Southern Christians were finding new ways to read their Bible to argue that slavery was blessed by God. So can we go to the next slide? So I think we need to go back to biblical defenses of slavery. Ended up a little smaller than I meant for it to, so the room's a little bigger. But we need to go back to this era, and I want to explain to you why. Because when we think about that combination of a particular idea of Christianity, gender hierarchy, racial hierarchy, and state power, we saw that in the decades before the Civil War, and it was pioneered by white Southern Christians, in this case, Protestant Christians. Today, it's increasingly Catholics as well. And it was pioneered in order to justify the enslavement of human beings. And here are some aspects of those ideas that I think are relevant today. So, when white Southern Christians defended slavery, which they did robustly, right? The majority of every defense of slavery written in the decades before the Civil War, legal, economic, moral, the majority were written by ministers, right? Not just attorneys, not others, not politicians, although some of the ministers did all those. These split major denominations, right? This is where the Southern Baptist Convention comes to be, but there were Southern Methodists and Southern Presbyterians. It defended slavery as an abstract institution, not the reality of American race-based slavery, partially because it was indefensible, and secondly, because they were trying to argue against white anti-slavery arguments that very rarely targeted racism as the problem. They were not listening to Black Christian voices. These ideas had a similar theme. So even though Baptists and Methodists had very different ideas of baptism, and even though the Methodists and the Presbyterians had different ideas about free will or providence or predestination, they all basically came up with the same argument to defend slavery. They let those other things go to the side. The argument was basically this: God is a God of order, and he, always he, has decided that the way to organize society is in a godly, hierarchical, orderly fashion. So just as God is head of all, white men are to be heads of churches and families and politics, right? This idea of God being on the side of hierarchy was at the heart of these defenses of slavery. And they liked to use the Bible selectively, right? Not Exodus, but there are 4 places in the New Testament. There are some of my favorite clergy in the room. So Ephesians, Colossians, Titus, and 1 Peter, where it says that slaves should obey their masters. And they're always paired a few verses before or after with the wives should obey their husbands verse. And so white Southern Christians said slavery is every bit as legitimate as marriage. They are like items. Now, that was a white supremacist lie, right? Slavery and 19th century marriage, as unrecognizable as that would be to today's version of marriage, were not the same. Right? But the lie was an effective one because Northern white Christians were not going to argue, at least not other than a few radical feminists, for women's enfranchisement or women's equality. And it made it seem, at least on paper, like a reasonable theological argument, because these were arguments basically among white folks, white Christians, white denominations. Black Christians thought this was absolutely absurd, right from the get-go. They would argue, as Frederick Douglass, famous abolitionist and formerly enslaved man, said, he said, between the Christianity of Christ and the Christianity of this land, I see the widest possible difference. So much that to love one means you must hate the other. I love the pure, peaceable, impartial Christianity of Christ. I therefore hate the cradle-plundering, woman-whipping Christianity of this land. I see no reason but the foulest to find these two the same. Now, I was paraphrasing, but that was pretty close to Douglas's exact words. So, the question might be asked, so what happened after slavery? Parma, can you go to the next slide? Did white Southerners say, oh, we are so sorry, we were wrong, we repent? Unfortunately, no. They clung to their pro-slavery theology and their separate denominations. They said, well, we were right about the way to read the Bible. We alone held fast to the traditional and true reading of the Bible against all those newfangled ideas about human rights and inalienable rights. And they're from the Declaration of Independence. They're from the French Revolution. We believe the Bible against all these new cultural ideas. Ever heard that before? They dismissed and also, dismissed their arguments, but actively fought against Black churches. African-American Christians knew that this was bad theology and also a violation of their 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment rights, right? And white Southerners, whether barefaced mobs, like in my hometown of Memphis, in May of 1866, when every single Black church was destroyed and burned to the ground by a white mob that killed dozens of Black citizens, well, Black individuals. This in part prompting the 14th Amendment, which was passed by Congress that year. White Christians and targeted these ideas. They said these are not legitimate Christians because they were so interested in defending this hierarchical vision as God's plan. They found Reconstruction's political arguments, of which Black voting rights would be a key part, obviously the 15th Amendment, to be a disorderly and an inappropriate, even unjust to them, to their views of themselves, form of government. And so you see the ways that they were arguing, even during Reconstruction, when they really didn't have political power, because for a very brief period of time, the federal government was interested in supporting and protecting Black rights. They believed that the right way to organize society was in hierarchies led by white, wealthy Christian men. And so they were able to provide a moral justification, as immoral as it was, an argument in defense of the kinds of power grabs that overthrew Reconstruction. Not dissimilar from some of the things we're seeing now, right? The extra legal, the illegal actions, then mapped on by the quasi-legal actions to kind of claim the power that had been seized. In South Carolina, we saw that in the Hamburg Massacre. We saw that with Benjamin Tillman's actions, right? He started out basically as a mob leader, and then he became a senator and a governor. And he instantiated the same ideas that he had been enacting illegally. We see these things even today. And so the basic point here, next point, is the social order here, the social order that was God's design for white Christian citizens, ideas of themselves, were rigid hierarchies of race, class, and gender. This was what many white Southerners agreed was self-evidently the case. I've named a bunch of denominations, but don't feel like if just because you're an Episcopalian or you're something else that you're not a part of this, because this was the argument for the white South. This was made in state houses. This was made in pulpits. I had a picture of an old guy on the previous slide I didn't talk about. Benjamin Palmer was a respected Presbyterian leader and preacher from the First Presbyterian Church in New Orleans. When I teach students at Clemson, I only assign South Carolinians about these things. And so I pick a Presbyterian for one class and a Baptist for another. There are so many, unfortunately, sources that you can find to read these types of arguments. So why does this matter today? Well, it matters because of, the next slide, the pictures we see in our news media, right? It matters when we see someone who is instantiating, again, a certain version of Christianity, one that prioritizes power and hierarchy over individual rights and dignity and self-determination or autonomous organizations. When we see that, it has a history, right? It has a history and the kind of people that Doug Wilson, the pastor here, reads. the groups he supports, you can find a direct lineage. But it also really matters because it shows that actually this is something you can say, well, thank goodness I left religion behind when I was a teenager. That's fine. But this isn't the air we breathe. This is our society. This is what we have. And next slide. It's crucial to see that Black American Christians have found this to be absolutely nonsensical from the antebellum period. Who can name someone up here?
Ida B. Wells.
Ida B. Wells, yes, anti-lynching activist. Sorry. Yes. Well, yeah, this is actually Daniel Payne, another AME leader. This is, David Walker. He was someone who wrote an anti-slavery pamphlet in Boston in 1830 that was so radical it was banned in the South. People would sew it into clothing to send it south. Mariah Stewart, right there, she was the first woman addressing a group of both men and women in Boston in the antebellum period. That was so radical, it was called a promiscuous gathering in the local newspaper, by which they meant that men and women were sitting in the same room listening to a woman speak. That's Howard Thurman, the top left. Black pastor, he was a teacher of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at Boston University. Frederick Douglass, whom I quoted earlier, and then Sojourner Truth down there on the bottom right. I could have put dozens and dozens more. And obviously, right, we have so many people who would have spoken against this and written against this and preached against this, whose pictures we don't have anymore, right? So the thing to know, I think, particularly in a room of this many well-intentioned white folks, so we need to not just go back to the slogan of a couple of years ago of believe Black women, absolutely start there, but read them, teach them, learn them, befriend them, get to know what we need to be doing both in our community here in Greenville County, but also in the nation at this moment. Because if you think that these ideas just evaporated and then popped back down in 2024, and if things had gone differently, we wouldn't have any of these ideas in our society anymore. It's not America. Right? Racism is not just a Trump administration problem. It's an American problem. It's not just a South Carolina problem. It's not just a this particular moment problem. And the ideas of what makes for a good society and whose families we want to defend when people are defending family values, right? Family values have been used to attack a lot of families over time. And that's not just, LGBTQ families today, although that would be certainly a great example. It's also about the justifications for lynching, which Ida B. Wells was the first one to investigate in 1892 when her good friend Thomas Moss was killed in the People's Grocery Massacre. And she realized that even then, in 1892, it was a lie that there was even an allegation of some kind of sexual assault on white women that justified lynching. That's not even alleged the vast majority of the time. That was in 1892. How long did it take even the most enterprising white Southern women? It was in the 1930s before they were willing to speak out against lynching, right? So I think we want to think about how can we learn from our past? Or we're doomed to repeat it. We are repeating it, right? It's rhyming at least in many ways. But how can we learn in a way that convicts each of us, right? I think about this often myself as a white Southerner, who is descended from many people who made decisions that aided and exacerbated much of this evil. Right? How can I reflect on my own culpability? And then how can I think, Roxanne mentioned I'm a mom of young children, as I think about as a public school mom in Greenville County, as a neighbor, as someone who's engaged, how can I think about how I act in light of this history? I'm never going to get it all right. But when I learn and listen to others, when I invite them in, rather than aggressively policing if they have exactly the expertise to speak to me, I learn a lot. And I think that we might all learn a lot. So I will pause here and say thank you and let Roxanne field some questions for me, if that's okay.
White supremacy.
So I'll repeat the question. Does the segregated nature of churches in America exacerbate this problem?
Yeah.
So often that gets asked by white folks who kind of want to figure out why they don't have Black folks at their churches. And I don't know who asked the question, it's anonymous. So I don't know if that's the situation. But what I will say is that that misunderstands the role of African-American churches in history, right? African-American churches were not formed to segregate. They were formed to survive. They were formed in order to be able to have a space where Black voices were heard and were not stuck up in a balcony and taught about how slaves are supposed to obey their masters, right? White churches, and I won't name names, but if you know where I belong, they're culpable here too, were really surprised in the 1860s, late 1860s, that folks wanted to go and form independent Black churches like Springfield in downtown Greenville. It was a shock to the white folks who said, well, we made such a nice balcony. And so I want to suggest that, I would say the problem is different. It's a different situation for majority white and majority African-American churches. And that of course assumes that society is Black and white, and that doesn't involve our immigrant and Hispanic and many other groups, right? We're not a Black and white society. But I think for white majority churches, that's a different conversation than for a historically Black church. But historically Black churches weren't just churches. They were the only place that Black politicians could speak. They were the only places where Black kids could go to school, right? They're the only high schools. Southern states did not provide secondary schools for Black students. They just denied them access to the white ones. But if you're in a white church, you've got some homework, and I'd love to help you figure out how to do some of that. But are there more questions? Okay. Do I think that today's fundamentalist religious leaders do not see themselves as their pro-slavery or pro-segregationist forebearers out of ignorance or out of malice? It's both. So I have had I won't name a name, but I had a young man in my class 2 years ago who had a job lined up to go work with Nancy Bass when he graduated, and he just had to make it through my class. And he had so many great things to offer from the back of the classroom. Well, I read that, I heard that. But this young man who was willing to voice views that are, I'll say, outside of the mainstream in America up until the last 2 years, was really shocked at pro-slavery theology. He's like, I can't believe people got it this wrong. That's clearly absurd. And what I couldn't do with him, but I have sometimes been able to do with the students who are a little more open, who haven't already picked their next choice quite like that, is to say, well, wow, how do we see this today? So I think that folks today have decided that they don't, I think that the leaders probably are doing it out of malice, but I think most people don't know their history. Right? And there are reasons they don't know their history. I can talk about the history of that, but it's the anti-DEI push is not new. It is American history. It has been the teaching of American history. So I'll stop there.
That's about anti-DEI. That's the next one.
Was my teaching content affected by changes in anti-DEI sentiments at universities and statewide? There's a video taking me this, and I'm not speaking for my employer, but I'll speak for someone who is a white tenured person at our land grant university, is that I have not really changed my content, and no one has come for me. My department chair and dean would vouch for me if asked. I mean, they've given me teaching awards. But what I will say is that it is not effective to have a group of students who have either no views or often a wide range of views, and to say, well, let me tell you, day one, this is why your views are racist. It is much better to say, let's read Ida B. Wells together. She only names one Southern politician in her anti-lynching screed who's particularly problematic. That's Benjamin Tillman. She lived 8 hours drive from here today. It's longer before there were highways. I know because I'm from Memphis. Do we think there were no racist men back over there? What does it say about Benjamin Tillman's legacy? Was he just one of many? Let's think about that together. But also to get people to read. Teenagers and young people don't read books, like pages, paper, you turn them. Yeah. To get them to read and get them to talk to each other and to learn to have a conversation when you don't already agree with everyone in the room. Those are bigger skills. And so, I mean, I'm not changing because of anti-DEI statements, but getting people to talk to each other and to read is like the first level before you can really get them to possibly encounter a different view.
Okay, this is a couple. How can white Christians that follow the teachings of Jesus best fight the misrepresentation of our faith by the Christian nationalists? A couple of people asked.
Okay.
What can they do?
It's a good question. I'm a professor, so I will assign you reading. I wrote a book, that's fine. You should go read Jamar Tisby's The Color of Compromise. It's Tisby, Tisby. It is available in your Greenville County Library and wherever books are sold. The Color of Compromise is a history of white Christian, both complicity and active work to engage in racist work throughout time. So I would read Jamar Tisby's The Color of Conscience. And if I can give you a second book for the really avid students, it would be Martha Jones' Vanguard. This was published in 2020. Jamar Tisby's a couple of years older. Also available, Greenville County Library and wherever books are sold. Martha Jones' Vanguard. And it's the subtitle is something like How Black Women Broke Barriers and Fought for Equality for All. And Jones's book is a history of women's political activism, but told through Black women from the anti-slavery period through Stacey Abrams. And she argues persuasively that we cannot, particularly we people who, at least my great-grandmothers, were enfranchised by the 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment did not do a lot for African-American women's voting rights, particularly in the South. She's arguing that we can't just think about the 19th Amendment as somehow solving voting issues. And so with that as a premise, she says we need to think about the ways that Black women's history has really the history of fighting for equality on racial and gendered lines. Because as I pointed out, the people trying to justify white Christian nationalism today or slavery yesterday are doing it by combining racial and gender hierarchies. And we cannot undo one of them without the other. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you also. I think everybody's got a pretty good idea who Stacey Mars is. She's the chair of the Democratic Party in Greenville County. While Dem Women is not affiliated in any legal or financial way with the party, we are playing for the same team and we work very closely together. As Democrats, we have to stand together and work together. Stacey's going to go over some new things that we'll be doing this year. She'll take questions after her remarks. I'm sure you will have some. I'll write them down on the card and somebody will come and get them from you. So Stacey.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me today. I think you all know we're living in some pretty unprecedented times, and I just threw my bingo card out the window yesterday because I think there's nothing going right this year. So I do want to start by thanking Laura and the board of the Democratic Women. You guys are doing some really amazing work. You make my job a lot easier when it comes to supporting candidates. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I also want to acknowledge the Greenville County Democratic leadership that is here. If you just stand for me so everybody can see you. I know they know who I am, but they don't know. They do a lot of work, y'all. I know you think I do a lot, but behind the scenes, everyone that you saw standing up, they're part of this team and they give it 100%. So if you see them, please hug them and tell them thank you. And then the candidates. Are there any candidates here today?
Caroline,
Stand up. I think I saw only 4, but y'all, like Laura said, we made some history. We have 15, I believe, state house candidates running this year. That hasn't happened in a very, very, very long time. I'm sorry, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
the mic is low. Yeah,
There
you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We have 15 state house candidates. 15. Normally, we do good to get 3. So this year is a very big year for us. We also have some county council candidates this year as well, which I think there are 2 people running for county council. One is already a seat is already that's already given. They didn't have a Republican challenger, but there are 2 that have Republican challengers. And Thomas right here is one of those people running for county council. So I'm really excited about that. But Laura, she said I was gonna talk about some new stuff, and I will get to that soon. But I do want to let y'all know, we're still gonna be doing a lot of the tried and true tactics because they work. They work. So we're still gonna be canvassing. We're still gonna be phone banking, and all of those candidates that you saw stand up will need your help. They will all need your help. And I know that canvassing is not fun. Phone banking is tedious. I know, I've been there, but that is how we win. And so, any of those candidates that you see, please go to them and ask them how you can help because I guarantee you they have something for you to do. The other thing that we are doing is we're coordinating with the state party. Because we have a historic number of candidates on the ballot, we want to make sure that we are using our funds and our resources to the best of our abilities. So we are coordinating with the state party in a lot of ways. We met with them this weekend to see how we could work together. And I'm excited to say we've got some good stuff coming. I just can't tell you what everything is right now, but just know we've got a lot of good stuff coming from the state party, and they are coordinating with Dr. Andrews' campaigns and Representative Johnson's campaigns as well. So for the new stuff that Laura was talking about, nothing fancy, but things that I think can help get our candidates out there. We're going to be doing some digital series with a number of candidates. I haven't talked to them yet, so some of them should expect a phone call. But we're going to be doing some digital series because what I've found, just myself in managing campaigns, we do not get them out there enough. And there are some, I'd say, inexpensive ways to make that happen, especially when it comes to digital. So we are going to be doing some series with that. We're also going to be coordinating with some Hispanic leaders in the community to see what we can do about making inroads with the Hispanic community. I think that one's a little trickier, of course, because historically the Hispanic community has known to be conservative, but I think with the times being the way they are, we might be able to convince a few of them to vote with us. So we are going to be working on that as well. The other thing that we're going to do is engage and activate our precinct leaders. I think that's something that's been sorely missing because they do a lot of the heavy lifting for us when the program is done right. And Steve Ramirez back there and Emily Schwalbe, I don't know that she's here, have been heading that program for us. And Steve, how many precinct leaders do we have? I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Active, probably around 40, on the ballot or on the list, it's probably around 90.
Okay, so we've got a number of them. And so we will definitely be activating them to get out and knock on doors because our focus this year is going to be inactive voters, people who haven't voted in a long time. I think we've got a pretty good reason for them to go and vote this year. And so we're going to be out knocking doors and talking to them, but we're counting on the precinct leaders, the people who actually live in those communities, who live in those precincts, who know their neighbors, to go and talk to them and find a way to get them to the polls. And then we're going to be engaging with faith leaders to talk to their congregations, to do souls to the polls. And things of that nature. So we're working on a number of different fronts to engage as many people as we can. There are over 20 some odd thousand inactive voters in Greenville. So if you don't help a candidate, come out and help us. We need you. It's a lot of doors that have to be knocked, a lot of phone calls that have to be made, and a lot of texts that have to be sent out. So like I said before, we're living in some pretty crazy times. And you talked about oppression earlier, and that seems to be the theme of the day again. I say that as a Black woman. And so it looks like our Republican legislatures are working to take away our rights. They want to take away women's rights, LGBTQ rights from their communities. They're stripping our public schools of their funding, and they're doing their, excuse my language, but they're doing the damnedest to take away our voting rights, y'all. And so all of this can make you feel scared, you're fearful, and some people have even said they want to move away. Please don't move, y'all. But I encourage you to remember the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So, my friends, we can still win. We just have to keep fighting. But more importantly, find a candidate that just stood up and support them and talk to your friends and family and make sure they go out and they vote too. Thank you.
Questions? Cards? Cards? No? Just shout them out. There's a lady right here. I see that. I see that. Okay, I see that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I've been asking this and I'm very concerned about it, but what are we doing to engage our large corporate population of voting youth?
That's a good question. I get that a lot. They ask me what we're doing to engage the youth. I'm sorry, she asked what we're doing to engage the youth. We are working with we actually have the Young Democrats of Greenville County. They have, their president is Peldowski. And so we have been working with her to find ways to engage our youth because, that is hard. They feel they don't have anything to vote for. They are not looking towards the future, or they feel like the future is really overwhelming. And so we're working on it. There's no real answer. I hate to say that, but we're finding ways to engage them. We're still looking. So if you have any ideas, that would be great.
Question, just a follow on, how many of the 20,000 inactive voters in Greenville County are young adult voters? They majority or?
I didn't dig that deep, but I can get the answer and give it to them.
You suspect it's a large number?
I don't want to speak to that because I really don't know. I don't think it is. I think a lot of the inactive voters really are people probably between the ages of 30 to 45.
I'll just share really quickly on the youth front.
Gotta speak up a little bit.
I'll just share really quickly on the young voters. It by and large was a significantly lower turnout in the primary, right? I mean, it was incredibly low. We think about young people in terms of our college systems. You have a significant connected system in Greenville. We do as Spartanburg as well. We're working with the South Carolina Voter Guide this summer with 9 interns who are building a college outreach program so they can go out and be ambassadors at universities, especially state ones who actually have connectivity across South Carolina to identify clubs, statewide organizations like the law clubs, things like that, where they can have one big touch point and share information about the elections. And it's going to start with helping people understand how to register here to continue to vote here, even if they're at school and they don't live here like permanently. And then also how to do absentee. We've heard those are 2 of the biggest ones. And there's groups in Charleston who have already started this. So we're trying to do that level of it. So there's at least kind of the student connection that can ramp up in August when there's still time to get that piece of it done.
I think another part of it, if you will, is education. They don't have civics courses the way we did when we were in school. Right. They don't know the value of civics. And so I think part of it is we're going to have to find ways to educate them on that and how it impacts them.
Stacey. One thing that we've also done in Spartanburg was we started doing one of the things we started doing in Spartanburg was we started doing issues forums, town halls. And that would help you with your precinct captains as well. You start letting people talk about what their issues are in their community for whatever issues and passions that they have. They'll find people to come to those meetings. And what we did was we just passed the mic to every candidate came in and started just letting people. So that's another way to help build up the young Democrats, but at the same time, let everybody that has a passion for data centers start doing data center forums. People that have issues towards wanting to yarn, get together. People find issues that they connect around and just start doing town halls around them.
Susan, I see you.
Stacey, Susan's first, I'm sorry.
The microphones, I can't hear that.
Yeah, we'll have them come up, I'm sorry.
Susan?
Not registered, a lot of people. But some issues we showing that they was on probation years ago. And I literally had to go to the election officer and get letters verifying that there was no longer on it. But that was just because of a lot of people and the black communities with voting. But I did, I was able to reach out to a lot of these going to barbershops and hair salons and stuff. So that made it part of it.
I was gonna say, don't underestimate the importance of the phone banking and the canvassing. Cause like I was thinking about Caroline's race. You got Bruce Bannister. I mean, he might as well be dead. These people haven't seen him or heard from him. And you cannot underestimate the impact of someone calling you and asking for your vote and you care.
I'll repeat it over. Yeah, so Roxanne said something I really like. Don't underestimate the power of canvassing and phone banking. People are likely to talk to you when they open the door and engage with you, and they remember that.
Yes.
They especially remember the candidate.
Yeah.
If they're knocking on doors.
Yeah.
If they answer the phone, more often than not, they'll talk to you. If they don't, it's okay. Like you wouldn't know them if you saw them on the street anyway.
Right.
So, like Roxanne said, just don't underestimate that because people are more willing to talk, especially when you lead with, what's important to you.
Thank you.
Lynn had a question.
Can I?
That anytime you connect with someone and you get them up and out to vote for Caroline, or John, or Tom, or me, you get another vote for Jermaine, you're getting another vote for Annie, and you're getting all those other votes. So keep connecting, keep getting out there.
I'll just say something. So on the phone banking and the canvassing part, I just want to point out, there are 352,000 registered voters in Greenville County. When we go out on a Saturday, Evelyn and I, and we're canvassing for somebody, we might hit 30 or 40. Now, there are some people that'll hit 60 or 80, but we're slow and old, so we hit 30 or 40. You know how many canvassing shifts that is to hit? We're not gonna hit 352,000, that's ridiculous. But we gotta hit a lot more than we've been hitting, which means we need all of you, not the 10 or 12, 14 people in this room who I can look at and say, I know you will come if we ask. All of you.
And it's okay if you can't walk, you can drive.
It's okay. I can't walk.
I've seen some things in some of the Spartanburg literature about them doing town meetings. Are you planning any in Greenville County?
We are. We also have our monthly meetings.
Yes.
We have encouraged the people to come and we talk about the issues and we have candidates as well. But I recently did, it was more like a happy hour type thing where people could come and talk about their issues. So we did a slight twist on it. But yeah.
Yes, I was just wondering for the young people, is there any campaign working towards like digital TikTok, civil, civil and civics? Is it by TikTok reaching out and doing little bitty pieces on civics, that reaches a lot of young people, especially if they're career. I don't have the ability, but is there any campaign to get that underway and get out and just on civics and get them talking about it among themselves?
Sure. We're still figuring that part of it out. Like TikTok is a different beast. It just is. It's not like Facebook or anything like that. And so finding somebody that can help us like figure out the creative side of that would be nice.
Those Democrats, the high school Democrats, they figure it out.
Right. Well, a lot, and they probably could, if they were willing to give the time to help us. But we do have our podcast. I don't know, I guess young people still listen to podcasts, and we are doing a civic series on there as well. We just did the first one on boards and commissions. So we're not quite on TikTok yet, but we are headed in that direction. Steve.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Not just on Spotify, but also on YouTube. And the clips are actually making it much more viral or close to viral than the podcast itself. And little clips from those civic series, and those are getting a lot of visibility. Big margin. No, that's all.
One more.
Yeah, I know that.
Lady from Spartanburg, how do you get established with the youth meetings? Where do these meetings happen? And how do young people come to know about these meetings? And, you know, when are your meetings and how would we find out about the meetings? I'm not following this to pursue the where and the how.
Usually you want to talk about Turkey first. Yeah, so
So what we started doing 2 years ago, I think it was, we started about issues. We started talking about issues, and we started in the outer areas, because generally everybody inner city of Greenville knows what's going on. When you start going to the outer parts of Greenville where you don't see any Democrats at, they really want to, and perfect story. And I was going to sum up with this, but me and Catherine were canvassing in cow pens. Cow pens, if y'all know what it said. Had no business being there, but we went. Catherine said we're going, we went. The very last door we knocked on, the lady ran outside and she was like, "What are y'all talking about, Hispanic?" She's like, "What y'all want?" And we was like, "We're Democrats." And she said, "What?" I didn't know anybody was Democrat in the city. And it was pouring down rain. She came to the meeting. She's running for House of Representatives. Her daughter is now within the Young Democrats, and she was excited. She was like, "I tell my brother, I tell my sister, I tell my mommy, I tell everybody, come to the meetings." So you have to just find where they're at and what their passions are. So my passions were stop the violence. We have a lot of violence in Spartanburg. I was part of the coalition, and I started setting up meetings within the outskirts, and people came. Lakeisha Whitner, who's running for county council chair, she has this slogan that says, "If you grow the people, they'll come." So if you start talking about things that are issues in your locals, just neighborhoods, and you stand up a meeting, you might not think people will show up, but they show up because people still are concerned. People still want to know that it's somebody that I connect with, that I can pick up the phone and at least talk about these turbulent times that we're going through. So don't discredit the fact that you are sitting in the car at the red light and you're just like, "Oh God, what are we doing?" Find a Stacey to call and talk to, because that's what we do. And then Stacey will find somebody to talk to. And then when you start setting it up as a meeting and just saying, "Hey, we're gonna go here." Me and Stacey, somebody asked a question about setting up town halls. Me and Stacey are in the process now of setting up a town hall in, is it Nebo community? In the Greer. Yeah, somewhere in Greer. We don't even know where we're going. We've been in funeral homes. We will go. If they set up a meeting and you can tell me that 3 people will be there, we'll be there. So we're going to, I think it's the Nebo community, and we're going to set up a meeting real soon.
give me this one second, I'll get to you. As for, I think you asked about our monthly meetings. They are the 4th Tuesday of every month. You can find everything that's going on with the Greenville County Democrats on our website. It's greenvilledemocrats.com. And there's a calendar out there that has everything for us, for the Dem women, for some of our affiliate groups like the North Greenville Dems, who are amazing, the East Side Dems, and South Greenville Dems. So it's all out there.
Thank you, Stacey.
Thanks.
Lastly, I want to mention next month's meeting. It will be the last of our summer series of evening meetings. At the February meeting, one of the attendees who didn't give me her name passed me a note that simply said, "Be more positive." Whoever you are, I am trying. But I did have you in mind when coming up with our August meeting. Furman professors Aaron Simmons and Jack Hansen will be addressing the issue of artificial intelligence, but from the perspective of the positive societal changes that AI can bring about. Every AI story I read is a disaster, potential disaster, dystopian future, end of the world, nobody in control. So I hope that this will be both a positive and compelling program that will give us a little bit different perspective. I'm looking forward to it. I hope to see all of you back here again in August. And thank you very much for coming. Drive safely, get home safely.